G'day, I'm Judd, the Aussie Nerf Cowboy,
And I'm Jack.
and in this video I'm going to be going over a new series that I'm liking to do called Player Profiles. It's sort of like a loadouts, but with a twist, where we talk about more how people's gear has evolved and how their playstyles have evolved from when they started. And Jack's going to be the first person doing this.
Yep.
So, what did you start with? How did you first get into Nerf?
Well, I started just by looking at paint jobs people were doing, because I just had a strong arm just lying around the house that I wanted to kind of do a bit of an art project on. And after searching around Facebook a little bit, I found Sydney Nerf. So I looked at when the next event was coming up. I'd only just missed it, so I went to November of 2018.
So you've been doing Nerf now for about a year and a half. We're not going to count 2020 because that's
been a wash.
Yep. But what I remember you showing up for your first event. I think that was at
It was Lansdowne.
yeah, which is a field we have that's a rough bushland. It's pretty fun. But what gear were you running at that first event?
So the first event, I put something together very quickly. I was running my strong arm and a stock Strife with a couple of 12-round mags, and I had them holstered to me using a pair of suspenders and 2 lanyards. So you don't need a lot to start off, to be honest.
I remember you showing up with the suspenders, and I think that was one of the first things I said. Like, that was really cool, because I think it was a time ago when I was starting out. I ran a pair of shotgun belts that I was using to load darts into for my sledge fire, so I had another like 50 shots on my chest. But how did your first event go with that gear?
Okay, so there were a lot of things that I learnt from doing that. Suspenders, because they're made of elastic, means the blasters tend to droop a lot and bounce around. And also, I was running 2 stock blasters at a very heavily modified event, so I got wrecked.
But it's a good education, learning experience. And then I think you were pretty much running similar gear to that for a while until you got... What was your next upgrade?
So the next upgrade would have been my Retaliator. And I was running it in a bit of an unorthodox way. I'd put a 12 kilo spring in it, but I was still running it with the top prime, so I was kind of shotgun loading it. And it was impractical, but it was what I was working with at the time, and it worked well enough. Managed to get some decent tags with that, and I ended up getting a cheap holster off eBay for my strong arm, which I'd also put a spring into.
Yeah, how long did that strong arm work? 'Cause I haven't seen you run that for a while.
It still works. It just isn't happy. It's got I believe it's a 9 kilogram spring without a catch spring upgrade, so it is angry. It could break at any moment.
So it's just been retired.
It's been very much retired until I decide that I maybe want to bring it back.
Fair enough. And these were at very heavily modified PvP events. Sid Nerf is a 350 FPS limit, and that's what... Neighbors.
Yeah.
Cool. 350 FPS limit event. And anything's allowed under it except for the modified Titans. That's annoying. So when you came to Zombie Gong with us, how did that change your loadout?
Well, at that point, I think I'd gotten my hands on a hammer shot by then. I'm not entirely sure. I may have still been running the strong arm as a sidearm, but I was running some very unorthodox things, if I remember correctly. I think I was running a stock tri-strike, just the blaster itself, with some mags, and the strong arm, and a hammer shot. I'd only had one at that point.
You had a weird way of holstering that hammer shot as well, because I know you had the holster for the strong arm, but you didn't have anything for the hammer shot yet.
No, I think I'd gotten my hands on another holster, but it wasn't very well designed for it. So I think I was hanging it off my belt, like literally just hanging it off my belt because it was supposed to be a drop leg, but it didn't have a belt attachment.
There's flapping everywhere when you take a step.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you were running HVZ. But then, like, tell us more about what you're currently running, like, after all this time.
Okay, so after what is nearly 2.5 years, I'm fully decked out exactly as you'd expect me to be. I've got a full 250 FPS Prophecy, the shotgun, the MCX kit.
You've painted it up real pretty too.
Not yet, but that's coming.
I'm thinking of another one you print painted then.
Yes, that was an HVZ blaster for a while. But yeah, so I'm running that with Talon mags. I've got a full-on chest rig, plate carrier with 12 spaces for magazines and one in the blaster. I've got 2 3D printed drop leg holsters for my hammer shots.
Whose 3D prints were they?
3D printed solid. I got them out of the US.
Yep.
They cost me a pretty penny, but I love them.
And then, like, for HVZ, what was your kind of stuff you ran there? Because that's, again, for Sid Nerf, where we have the high FPS.
Yeah, so when we started doing HVZ, I was running my old Retaliator, which still had the 12 kilo spring in it, but then ended up getting a bit of a Prophecy conversion as well. I had 12 round mags for that, and a battle belt with some double stack mag holders on it. So I was starting decently load myself out, and then I got my hands on a Dart Zone Magnum. And I've pretty much been running that since at HVZ.
Well, you've been running the Magnum at Sid Nerf events as well for a while, if I recall.
Yeah, well, that was the sort of in-between period before I got my Prophecy. And before I got it working the way I wanted to, I was running the Magnum pretty well with my hammer shots.
That was around the time I was running my Sledgefire.
Yes.
Yeah. But, how does the evolution of your gear from going from the start to the finish, how has that affected your actual play style? Like, how did you start out playing? What was your tactics versus what your tactics are now in PvP?
Well, I mean, I'm always a subscriber to the fact that it should just be about fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I was running at the start very non-competitively, but just trying to have a bit of fun. Tags every now and then, but nothing special. And these days, now that I'm kind of shooting with the big boys with my 250 FPS Prophecy, I'm able to get some pretty decent tags consistently.
Tell us about your cursed darts. Because these things are horrific,
Yes.
and you run them very effectively.
Yes, I run cut down X-shot darts religiously. The reason is they're cheap, and cutting them down is not a difficult thing to do. So while they might not work very well for long range because they tend to curve, that's helped me.
Yeah, you shot me behind a piece of cover at the last event we went to. You couldn't really see me, but the dart curved around and then bent down and hit me on the other side of the piece of cover. I was really confused as to where it came from.
Yeah. They're more mid-range darts. You wouldn't want to be shooting at anything further than maybe 100 feet with them, but they can go further if you ask them nicely.
Yeah, I like using those types of darts at HVZs with my front loaders.
Yeah, they're very good for that. That's the entire reason I bought them initially, but I didn't have very many things to cut down for half-length darts, so I ended up cutting them down too.
So how do you play now? We've got the gear for the big boys with the cursed darts.
Well, now that I've got the cursed darts and the, and the big boy gear and the big boy blasters, I'm a little bit more competitive, but I'm still just trying to have fun out there. Dancing around, dodging stuff.
Walking out in the middle of cover, having a little jig.
Yeah, you can't hit me. Running in, taking him out if I can. If not, going back to spawn. But it's all just part of the experience.
And how's your playstyle adapted from HVZ?
Well, HVZ, I because I've been running the Magnum pretty much religiously for that, it's not too different because the Magnum hits about 90 FPS with the darts that we run, and while occasionally it'll jam because of the longer darts, I can still pop off a decent amount of shots, and I've got my 2 hammer shots on my side if I need them. So I can very easily do horde control with that.
I've noticed when, as a zombie coming after you, the best times to get you is either when you've jammed or like getting you unawares, because if I come at you from the front, there's just stupid capacity to compete with.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult to get him from the front.
Yeah, well, when you've got a maximum of 56 darts in any chamber,
Yeah.
That tends to help.
Yeah. And what about as a zombie? How's your playstyle go with that?
Well, I haven't got very good knees, so I can't run very well, but I tend to just get people by surprise. I might be a big target, but I also use smaller targets to my advantage. I have picked up children before and used them as a meat shield.
Yeah, that's fun. Some of the kids get real scared or excited or something like that. And I've done that in the past too. I've picked up one of the small children and they're like, oh, I don't want to run at him. And it's like, oh, well, let's go. And then you pick it up and then you run at their parent and the parent's like, oh, no. It's pretty adorable and pretty cute.
Yeah.
And then they come up and hit you in the back with a bull noodle.
Yeah. It's just like, damn.
But yeah, that's it's pretty good to get a bit of insight, and that's what I'd like to do with this series of videos, is get some players and just sort of see how they've evolved, and see what we can learn and share amongst everyone in the community. All right, till next time, guys. Be good. We're good at it.